Thank you very much, Russell, for the introduction. Yes, my name is Foluke Abigal Badejo. Most people call me Abby, so it's okay. You can call me Abby. Before I begin, I would like to do an acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land on which we are meeting and pay respect to the elders of the nation, both past and present. I extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples present. Sorry, tech. All right, so I'm going to begin with a bio because I think it's important to provide you with both a personal context and also professional context for this big idea that I would like to introduce, which is my solution to Maria's discussion this morning, her keynote, her very inspiring keynote. And she did a great job of highlighting the issues, and so did Nadia. And we don't have solutions yet. So I want to start by proposing my solution and fostering a debate around the ideas that I propose. So I'm going to talk through the idea of behavioral marketing and talk you through my work in progress framework. So I don't have a model, and disclaimer, I don't have any fancy pictures. I didn't want to use AI to cloud my ideas, even though I did have a look at the possibility of getting it to draw this framework for me, but I thought that's a bit too premature because it's important to have the debates and reflection and then come together as a group and put it together. And then I'm going to reverse engineer the problem, the big idea, so that you understand how I got to the big idea. And I'll talk you through the so what's, the now what's, and conclude with a call to arms. So in a nutshell, this quote perfectly sums me up. Live the full life of the mind, exhilarated by new ideas, intoxicated by the romance of the unusual. What that means for me is that I'm very values-driven, passionately curious. I love words. I go down rabbit holes of ideas and like to remix ideas. So, boundless intellectual and intellectual creativity and moral imagination. So I read widely, and that inspires me to think originally. Officially, I was born in Nigeria, so I grew up the first 12 years of my life in Nigeria. Then I was raised in Fiji for my formative years, my teenage years. I procreated with a Canadian, so I've been divorced and remarried, and my husband is Iranian. So I have 3 boys under 10. At one point, it was 2 under 2, so it was pretty hectic going for a while. But, I've learned about boys, and I'm also neurospicy. I won't go into details, but if you understand neurodiversity, and you'll understand that neurospicy is just one of those words that we use to describe ourselves. So if you've worked with me, you understand my quirks, you know that I'm a little bit different. I don't mean to, be rude. Just my behavior sometimes is just, I struggle sometimes with the social interactions. I have a PhD in social marketing. I've worked with vulnerable consumers, particularly in the space of modern slavery, customers experiencing vulnerability, so gambling, energy efficiency, elderly people, etc. I have multidisciplinary research expertise. I've started a social enterprise. I've evolved a social enterprise, and I continue to work with stakeholders on the ground to support the work that I translated from my PhD, which was on providing opportunities for survivors of modern slavery so that they were less susceptible to modern slavery in Nigeria. I've been published, I like to do a lot of conceptual works. I've been published in Marketing Theory, Journal of Marketing Management, Journal of Services Marketing, Journal of Social Marketing, etc. I've also been principal or named investigator in a number of grants, over $500,000. So I do think that I have some legitimacy to propose this idea. I've been in social marketing since 2012, so I understand the fields very well. So my research question really was about how might social marketing thought and practice respond to identified threats to its brand and relevance in the age of disruption. Now, without having to go through and repeat what has been covered in the keynote speeches in the introduction, we all know the challenges facing our sector, and we know the challenges facing our discipline, particularly with regards to social media marketing. And in fact, the session I was chairing earlier, the very first presentation, I had a little thought to myself that if Angela was here, I would have asked her about the conflation of social marketing framework, when she really meant, social media. So that is just one example of, even within the discipline, you're kind of seeing that conflation happening and how that threatens the legitimacy of social marketing. So my big idea is behavioral marketing. Along the lines of Kotler and Zaltzman's seminal work in 1971, when they introduced social marketing, when I read the original paper, social marketing was actually truncated from social cause marketing, so the cause was removed. So behavioral marketing is also truncated, so there's actually a word missing in the middle. It's behavioral ecosystems marketing, okay? And for me, this is my proposed solution, a unifying theory of social change in the age of disruption. And I'm going to talk through this theory. I don't have a definition yet. Like I said, this is a work in progress, and I don't have a framework, but I have steps, okay? And I want you to just pay attention to the logic and how it brings together the ecosystems of behavior, because behaviors don't exist in a vacuum, right? We have to consider the socio-ecological environment. We have to consider pestle. We have to understand who the key stakeholders are. So it's important to have a map of what we're trying to change. So for me, this begins with a problem statement, so understanding what the problem is, having that shared understanding, regardless of the discipline of change, having a problem clearly defined. And then the second step is having an approach to that change, to solving that problem by using behavioral marketing. Then we're going to look at the adoption of a strategic framework that's actually going to help us to operationalize our change program. So for me, the key constructs here, and I'm still thinking through, and I would welcome your thoughts, is that we begin with a mapping, a behavioral ecosystems mapping. And a common theme that was running through all of the presentations that I shared this morning is that, again, that sociological approach. They need to understand the environment. So it's important to have a behavioral ecosystems mapping. It's important to have formative research, because that is foundational to designing any program. We need to know what the problem is according to who we are targeting. So who are the people that we're targeting? What are the systems, the structures, the processes that are problematic that we need to be targeting? And how can we work with stakeholders to actually co-design this change program, regardless of your discipline? So this will include, like Belinda, I was really excited about her use of the word methods mix, right? Having a methods mix, being paradigmatically flexible, and then using these insights, these actionable insights, to then set smart goals for each of the identified priority stakeholders within the ecosystem that we've mapped. Then we're going to set SMART goals that are further broken down, right, according to the stages of change, or the marketing funnel, or customer journey map, whatever you want to call it. Then we move on to co-designing of this value exchange that is going to incentivize behavioral change. Of course, public health practitioners and scholars might disagree that we don't need to incentivize behavior change, but as a marketer, I'm sorry, I think you do. It always helps to sweeten the deal. And I think that this process has to be underpinned by a relationality, a relational engagement. And if you read Davies and Ozan's work on relational engagement, they really outline the process of doing so. Then the next step for me is the ethical segmentation, targeting, and positioning of our change program. Ethical is important because we need to consider that we're not being exclusive. We're not misrepresenting certain groups. We're not reproducing stereotypes, etc. We're not excluding certain groups from change. Then the next step is the development of the ethical marketing mix strategy. So this is going to, again, be transdisciplinary, okay? It's going to be context dependent. It's going to depend, and it's going to be co-designed. So it's going to depend on the environment in which we're seeking to change. So we'll have to have a model, our theory of change, for that particular context. And we use more than just the 4 Ps. We use more than just social marketing tools. We use all of the available tools that can help to influence behavior change, both at the individual level right through to upstream policy change level. And finally is the measurement and evaluation. So for me, there's a real need to move away from the singular measure of change in social marketing as just behavior, to also looking at determinants, drivers, and mechanisms of change. I teach media planning and buying at the University of Queensland, and I'm deeply immersed in the advertising literature, and I can see the potential there of how advertising and media can actually change behavior, because we know that media is effective at storytelling and effective at mobilizing and effective at engaging and enabling people to change their behavior. So there is a symbiotic relationship there that we cannot ignore as social marketers. For me, if we do all these things and we are transdisciplinary in our approach, there is going to be a necessary paradigm shift for us. We will become inclusive as a discipline. We can then leverage all of the different change disciplines to actually build the groundswell that we need for that large-scale social impact in the age of VUCA. So now I'm going to reverse engineer the problem, my big idea. So beginning with the definition of social marketing, right? Social marketing seeks to develop and integrate marketing concepts with other approaches to influence behavior that benefits individuals and communities for the greater good. So this is the consensus definition. Yet, paradoxically, we are exclusionary, all right? Yes, we borrow theories from other disciplines, but it's largely psychological theories, sociological theories, and we easily dismiss and disregard the potential, like I said, of disciplines like advertising, disciplines like behavioral economics. But our definition itself says that we need to be working with other approaches. So why are we not walking the walk, even though we're talking the talk? So that's my critique. And then, of course, our track record of effectiveness is being threatened because we're now, because of the benchmark criteria that we set for ourselves and how limiting that is, we are lacking the dynamic capabilities to actually address dynamic, layered, like Nadia said, complex social problems. The second problem for us, which puts us in a state of crisis, social marketing's evolution. So if you engage with the literature, you'll see all of the debates from the beginning of the discipline, the internal contradictions, the anomalies, the identity crisis issues, the enduring debates about our distinctiveness, our domain, our scope, our boundaries. This can all be resolved if we all just consolidate, right, with a new brand. In the age of disruption, this is critical now for us. We cannot afford to keep debating. We need to actually take steps now. There's fragmentation, of course, and tension and competition with other behavioral change disciplines. So this not only threatens our legitimacy, it also narrows the funding pool, because when we're not collaborative, we're limited by how much we can access in funding, which limits our ability to actually do programs that can be sustainable. There's also, we have to consider the shifts in consumer behavior, preferences, values, and expectations, greater calls for accountability and social responsibility and measurement of social impact. So I'm really pleased to see work like Belinda Duckworth's and the impact that's having in real time. But of course, my biggest concern is the threat of social media marketing and how that is now eclipsing our brand, social marketing. Even algorithms confuse us, when I tell people what I do, so social media, okay, great. And unfortunately for me, I taught social media last semester. And so when I was explaining to my students, they were like, oh, wow, really glad that you're a lecturer because, yeah, same really experience in social media. Okay, so yeah, even students don't know the difference. So there's that increase in conflation and confusion. There's also poor brand awareness, positioning, our narrow operating structure. So we don't have a unifying theory that can help us to actually collectivize and get stronger. So I got this idea after listening to Kotler, just on my rabbit hole of research and reading. And Kotler, there was a video of Kotler at the World Social Marketing Conference where he said, maybe it's time for us to change the name social marketing. But I know that there's a resistance to change, right? But like Maria said, change is our happy place. Why are we not embracing change, right? We need to stop with the problem admiration and actually focus on solutions. Because if we don't, the risks, the so what, the cost of inaction is actually great. We're going to become obsolete. Think about marketing myopia, extend to the idea of social marketing myopia. In fact, Lefebvre actually talked about this, and he's one of my favorite people besides Russell Belk and others in social marketing. What's going to happen to us is decline and decay. So we're not going to be around much longer if we don't do something now. So, what I'm proposing is a paradigm shift, okay? And the benefit of that is that there is going to be, the benefit of that is that we are going to see a shift in the way that we approach social change. And by consolidating, we're going to have that reduced fragmentation. So I want to talk you through, this is Thomas Kuhn's The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, okay? How new paradigms are formed. So where I outline the crisis that we're facing as a discipline, we've got our established paradigms, even though it's full of internal contradictions. We've got our crisis now. We have people like me and others who are thinking differently and creating this groundswell of ideas, and that is what is going to lead to scientific revolution for us. So, because I only have a couple more minutes, I want you to think about the reasons to believe in this idea, okay? Have a look at a theories in use approach by Ziethamel, and also have a look at Healthy Eats Evaluation, which is an evaluation of a program that I applied for a grant funding from Queensland Health, and I got to lead the design, co-design, implementation. I adopted a multi-stream social marketing approach, ecological systems theory, and actually the evaluation showed that it was measurable social change. There was measurable social change. Sorry, I just get discombobulated when you tell me that. Also, have a look at the WHO response to COVID. It wasn't just social marketing. There were steps to get to the containment of COVID. We had to create awareness. So why do we dismiss metrics like awareness? Why do we dismiss metrics like intention? Yes, we know that studies show that and attitudes, they don't necessarily lead to change, but maybe we should be recognizing those steps because they are the precursors to change. Institutions are also recognizing the need for a brand change. If you look at even Junto's our sponsor, they don't call themselves social marketing, marketing for good, UTS. I'm an affiliate member, they've got Change for Good. The courses that I'm teaching, I'm also teaching social marketing, but we're calling it marketing for social change. At QUT, we called it, when I taught there, marketing, behavioral, and social change. So there is a need to change. So I want to leave you with some meditations, because I'm a philosophy nerd, and provocations, okay? So reflect on this big idea, and I think there's an imperative for us as a discipline to prioritize holding special forums or special issues to actually reflect, debate, and importantly, come to a decision. What do we call ourselves as a discipline in light of the threats that we're facing? Adopt a relational engagement approach to developing this idea, this big idea. I'm inviting collaborators and communities of practice to help me develop this big idea, define the concept, and build this conceptual framework. And importantly, at the end, what I want is to produce a seminal article in the Journal of Marketing that serves as a follow-up to Kotler-Zaltzman's seminal article, Social Marketing. So thank you very much, and yeah, any questions? Kotler did say conferences are the best platform for us to discuss these ideas, so yes.
Yeah, thank you. Really interesting. Love what you're proposing. I like the idea of a name change and a new theory. I'm a brand person, and I also wonder if you've thought about the visuals of social marketing. I often think we look like the poor relation, you know, the design's often a bit meh. Would you extend that into sort of wider brand thinking about how we kind of promote the discipline, make it look a bit more cool and exciting, particularly when we're targeting young people a lot of the time?
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of this. We're all marketers, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if we all come together and, you know, exchange ideas, the amazing branding that we could come up with. And we don't actually lose any reputational capital that we've amassed from, you know, decades of social marketing, 50 years of social marketing. We actually build on it because we keep the name marketing in our brand, but we also focus on, we go back to first principles, right? We focus on behavioral sciences as the foundation, you know. And this slide that I actually skipped because we were running out of time. I just want to quickly show you that there is a clear grounding in first principles, right? The behavioral sciences is our foundation. If you go back to that seminal paper, you know, it talks about, at the core, marketing really is applied behavioral science. So this is us bringing it back to, you know, the first principles, what it was all about in the first place, and then bringing other change disciplines along with us, because we use the term behavior as well. So they know that we're focusing on behavior, not just at the individual level, but also looking at the different systems and structures. There's a transdisciplinarity element to it as well, which allows us to have that relational engagement with other change disciplines. So we have that flexibility of and imagination to create, you know, new, better programs that can be sustainable. Yeah,
exciting. I think particularly when we bring design into the mix,
yes,
we can help sell social marketing better, essentially.
Thank you.
Hi there. Not well formed, but from a practitioner perspective, I couldn't take a paper up to a funder with the term social marketing in it in the current environment. It just would never get through. So even the term marketing coming out as well to actually get funding signed off, has that thought process been in as well? Actually, possibly the opposite of removing or including branding and making it shiny and actually coming further away from that to allow programs to come through?
That's a good question, but I have a different thought to that, because marketing, yes, it's become a bit of a dirty word because, you know, there's a lot of, we've seen over the years some, you know, unethical practices, but for me, it's actually bringing us back into the fold in a good way and saying that marketing can be used for social good by linking it with, you know, behavioral change. So it's yeah, I'm aware of that, but I also think that it can actually work the other way too, by helping us to clean up our image. Thank you.